Sal and I first met as freshmen at MIT in the early 90s. We became roommates and very close friends quite quickly, and we continue to remain very close friends to this day, even though we live on separate coasts. He was the best man at my wedding and continues to be an inspiration to all of us who knew Sal when he was, Sal, the Renaissance man, math genius, technologist, come hedge fund trader who had this interesting side project to educate the world. And it's been unbelievable to see how this budding passion has translated into one of the most formidable new innovations in the whole area of online education. So he's a true social entrepreneur that has already transformed an industry that is very much ripe for disruption. That's the whole area of education. If there's a consistent theme that cuts across the broader arc of Sal's career, it would probably be his incredible passion for education and his ability to inspire people at all ages and all levels, from children from underprivileged backgrounds across the world who view him as a savior for reigniting their interest for knowledge, to his peers like me who've always watched how he's channeled his creativity for the greater good for society, and of course more recently the likes of Bill Gates, Vinod Khosla, and Google, who've played a key role funding some of the recent endeavors at the Khan Academy. Just some other interesting facts about Sal. He was a former heavy metal guitarist in high school, a president of our senior class at MIT, where he was awarded his 3 degrees that he completed in 4 years, personally by Bill Clinton. He's also a gifted writer who's authored various comedic sketches which we performed in numerous events that remain among my fondest memories from college. He was also named one of Computer World's top visionaries in Silicon Valley in his early 20s, and although I could continue listing off 100 other accolades, what I respect most about Sal is his incredible generosity for his family, his friends, his incredible sense of humor. And although he has a really great work ethic, he at the same time never takes himself or life too seriously. And that's something that's really been an inspiration for many of us who've known him. So now I'll turn it over to Mr. Khan himself.
Thank you so much for the very generous introduction. So when Somek and Bruce reached out for me to speak to y'all for a little bit, I thought, hey, y'all are entrepreneurs, so let me tell y'all something about entrepreneurship. It is a little bit strange because on some level, Khan Academy is a bit of a startup and we don't make money, so we're not really a business, we're not for profit. But I thought I would kind of share with y'all stuff that maybe you don't typically hear in an entrepreneurial setting, because entrepreneurship and business starting, it's always associated with taking risk. And kind of from my hedge fund days, the single best piece of advice I ever got was just be focused on not losing money or risk mitigation. And so I kind of thought about the Khan Academy experience because to a large degree it was all a big exercise in risk mitigation. And when I say that, it's how do you just make sure that you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting your money, you're not wasting other people's money. And the first thing, and it comes straight out of the Khan Academy story, is this idea of just build something pretty fast, prototype it, but actually have the prototype be what people use and put it out in front of people. And I say that because before the Khan Academy, I had tried doing kind of your traditional startup many times, and every time I did it, I'd have kind of an idea, and I would go out there and I'd be very possessive of my idea. I would make people sign NDAs, and I didn't want to show them, and I wanted to go hire patent attorneys immediately. And in hindsight, that was the exact wrong focus at that stage of an organization. I should have literally just built it and gotten as many people as possible to use it and give me a genuine feedback about it. And that kind of goes into what I think is kind of like the second thing that you should really think about when you're starting something, to make sure that it's worth your time, your kind of your career investment. And that's to make sure it's really useful for people. And when I say it's really useful for people, it's not, get a bunch of people in a focus group and asking them, hey, would you pay $9.95 a month for this type of service? And 60% of them say, oh yeah, I think I would pay $9.95 a month. Is to have people try your thing out and just have a kind of unsolicited kind of reaction to it. And I'll read out some of the initial notes I started getting from Khan Academy. Because remember, I didn't even want to start this initially. I was happy with my other career. And it's things like this that convinced me that maybe I should redirect my focus in life. So actually, Somak and I can both relate to this from our days in college. But once again, it spoke to a very clear need. This was I cut out some of the things that aren't appropriate for a general audience here. But this was an email that I got from a student early on about why he finds these videos useful. He says, there's always so much else that a student has on their mind. What is a pretty girl looking like today? What was the professor like when they were a student? Should I talk to the pretty girl after class? That the slightest drifting of focus quickly turns into a fruitless 2 hours spent daydreaming or unconscious. Please continue what you are doing. Here's another one. And these, they start to, that's kind of a cue. The kid, obviously has trouble focusing in class, and now he can watch the YouTube videos. But then a few comments start to speak to the how something simple like what I was working on can actually change people's lives. And I would have never thought that it was actually the case, but we started getting letters like this. This is from a parent. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are, but in my mind, you're a savior. My children really struggle with math. There's an inherited learning disability with my family. They get it, but only after seeing it done multiple times. Your videos allow us to get our children caught up with their peers. As a parent, I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so there's this theme that started forming and kind of convinced me to start the Khan Academy that, regardless of what they would say in a focus group for 1995 or whatever, there's just this huge groundswell of need that's just reaching out, or they're kind of hungry for this type of thing. And then, I'll read one that I got recently, and I don't want to make this about, it is a little bit self-horn-tooty to read these thank you letters and all of that, but I really want to put yourself in my mind and in my shoes as an entrepreneur of like, wow, because these are the things that convinced me to do the Khan Academy. So here's one that came recently. I'm a sophomore at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and I want you to know that your site has changed my college career. I've taken calculus 3 times. The first time I didn't pass the class. The second time I had to drop the class. And this time I worried I wouldn't pass. But when my girlfriend's mom told me about the site, she heard about it at a conference, I checked it out. I began supplementing, proceeding, and sometimes even replacing my lectures with your videos, and I received an 84% on my first midterm. I almost cried, I was so happy. And so I was thinking, 84%, that's an all right score, but why is he crying? It's not tear-evoking. But then I read the next sentence. Especially because the class average was a 47. Now I feel confident enough to say that I will most likely get an A in the class, which I simply didn't think was possible 2 months ago. And I'll read one more. My eldest kid is dancing, this is a different one. My eldest kid is dancing around in my room here because she's so excited that she found someone that teaches like this. And so, what I tell entrepreneurs now is if your product or your service or whatever changes people's life enough that they feel a visceral need to dance, then you've done your job. And so I'll leave you with kind of one other thought that I had, and this is I keep reminding myself about this because we're kind of on this growth curve with the Khan Academy. We're hiring a bunch of people, a lot of funding is coming in, and that's and this is just something I've observed in for-profit and in social venture world, is that there are a lot of good ideas, and sometimes the good ideas don't always gel with the right timing. And the way to really maximize your odds of success is to make your organization fundamentally unkillable. To make your organization, you can ramp up, but as long as, even if your sector it becomes unpopular, even if the financing dries up, even if there's kind of a major depression or recession, if you're an unkillable organization and you're fitting a need, and when I say unkillable, it means, at minimum, like Khan Academy, I hope to think is unkillable. The videos are out there. Even if I were to get hit by a bus, I'm killable, but hopefully the organization isn't. The videos could keep teaching. All it needs, it'll exist even on YouTube, even if the organization didn't have any money to support a web server. And so as long as it exists to eventually hit some type of a hockey stick when the market finally recognizes it, I think you'll do okay. So with that, I'd love to take any questions y'all might have.
So if you had one piece of advice for the people who have developed their entrepreneurial ideas and getting ready to present them in this competition, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to them?
Well, I'm not one of the judges there, but if I were one of the judges, what I would be really eager to see is, some ideas can stand on their own merit because they're just so unbelievably great ideas. But most ideas, I'm guessing all of the ideas we're going to hear today are great ideas. And so the things I would be looking for is implementation and a sign of real fitting a market need. So if there is evidence of that, I definitely emphasize it. I'd emphasize one, that it actually exists, that it isn't just an idea, and two, that even if you can pinpoint one person that's life was fundamentally altered by this product or this idea, I think that'd be pretty compelling.
So, my name is Harold Levy, and I used to be the school chancellor in New York, so I want to tell you how delighted I am to meet you and honored. Because I think what you've done has probably had more impact than any single individual on education, certainly in my lifetime, and that it's been huge. My question for this group, where we're a group of entrepreneurs and people who like to think of themselves as interested in education, is you seem to have set the bar very high by saying, you know, you're going to get visceral dancing going on. I'm not sure that most of us are going to come up with ideas where people are going to be dancing. Two-part. One, what's a realistic bar as to when you ought to plunk down some assets, some time, and commit? And two, Khan Academy is not, right now, profit-making. It's a social entrepreneurship venture. Are you going to convert it? Or are you on the track you're on?
Yeah, so the first thing, no, and I put that bar really high because to some degree that was my bar, because I wasn't, when I started this, I wasn't looking to start a business. I was happy with my career, and so for me it was really, what do I need to see to feel that this was going to, this was going to work no matter what. It was worth kind of investing my career into it. The bar doesn't have to be that high. It really is just a matter of one's risk tolerance. But I think if someone sets their bar pretty high, pretty close to that, it'll ensure that they're at least working on something that won't be worthless, that'll have some value to the world. The second part is, no, Khan Academy will never be a for-profit organization. And actually, it's an interesting point, because early on there was a temptation to do it. We had been approached to make it a for-profit organization, or even sometimes called a double bottom line organization, where you're a for-profit and you also have a social mission. And it became clear, at least to me, pretty early, is that there's no such thing as a double bottom line organization. That you literally have a bottom line. That's why it's called a bottom line, not tied for the bottom line organization. And there's nothing wrong with a for-profit business. I mean, I came from the most for-profit of businesses imaginable to mankind, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's very important to be true to what you are. Is your mission to maximize kind of quantitative economic return, or is it to maximize social return? And I think, I have a personal problem with the organizations that when they talk to foundations, they sound like a social venture, and when they talk to their investors, they sound like a for-profit venture, or even worse, they use their social mission as marketing. Hey, if you buy my $100 crappy product, I'm going to give $5 to, or I'm going to give another version of my crappy product to 4 kids in some country. And what I don't tell you is I'm going to keep $95 to buy my mansion in Beverly Hills or whatever. And so I think it's very important to know what you're trying to do, know what your end goal is. And for me, the introspection was, let me think about a home run success in the for-profit world and then a home run success in the not-for-profit world, and which one would make me happier, which one would make me more satisfied. And if I could compare having a few $1 billion to the idea that Khan Academy could turn into kind of an institution that could continue to teach billions of people for potentially a long time, the latter was a lot more fun. So our goal is to kind of be a sustainable not-profit, but we're never going to be for-profit.
Thank you. We have a question that I'll read from the Twitter feed, but I'll take my privilege to ask a question as well. And the part about the double bottom line, either social or commercial, I know one of our judges, David Rose, is smiling because that's a point he argues with me every year for the last 7 years. So thank you. My question would be, where would you like to see the Khan Academy in 5 or 10 years? And do you foresee ever having other instructors?
So the first question, I hope as just a standalone kind of web resource in 5 years, people really do view Khan Academy as one of kind of the pillar institutions of the internet. So you have like Wikipedia, you have Khan Academy. Wikipedia is the encyclopedia. Khan Academy is where you go to learn. literally anything you can and get the practice, the feedback, the data, and even on a standalone basis, even if you have no school to speak of, there's ways to prove what you know so that maybe you can get a credential and go out there into the marketplace and prove your worth. On top of that, I hope that it redefines what happens in a physical experience too, that it really becomes the de facto operating system for classrooms or even a new type of school. And what was the second part? Was that I forgot the second part.
Do you foresee having other instructors?
Oh, other instructors. Yes. So it's not kind of tactically what we're like super focused on right now, but we are translating already into 10 languages, and so there are people kind of reteaching it in other languages. We're thinking about doing kind of you know how there's TED, the TED conferences, and there's TEDx. We're thinking about doing something like that with Khan Academy, kind of a farm league, so other people can kind of develop a following. And we're already on the lookout. If we find people who look the way I looked 3 or 4 years ago, we would love to accelerate them. You know, bring them in, give them exposure. If we feel like they're really on the right track and they're in a neat domain, they're teaching. You know, I've been trying to get Salman to teach music. He's a world-class violinist. Since he gave me such a generous introduction, I can embarrass him a little bit. But yeah, we would love to include those in the library.
Thanks, Sal. And I'll ask one of the questions from the Twitter feed, and this is from Darin, DAH_RIN. Hashtag Pace Pitch. Question for Mr. Khan. How has your MBA helped you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, you know, it's strange because when I went into the business school, I was very dismissive of it. I was this quantitative engineering guy. I just kind of viewed it as something to get on my resume so that I wouldn't be pigeonholed as the quantitative engineering guy anymore. But I'll tell you, there's two interesting things. One that directly helped me, I think now do these videos on 2,200 topics is that it made me very good at sounding like I'm an expert on things that I'm not quite an expert about. Which is kind of a necessary thing if you're going to make 2,200 videos on a bunch of topics. I think the other thing is, and I'm serious about that, it actually is a very valuable skill. And I think the second thing is it actually just gave me a ton of confidence. It kind of let me know kind of what is the state of the art. How do other people think about these? And now when I go into a domain, I'm like, you know what? I've interacted. I've got, you know, I had that experience. I kind of know that I'm well armed to go into this engagement. So it's actually just changed my mindset a lot.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. I have, Somac's going to send you this. We have a little crystal thank you for you. And Sal, thank you so much. You've been an inspiration, and thank you. And thanks Somac, his MIT roommate, for helping make all this happen. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.